When it comes to money, I had to really understand my relationship to it, especially with faith, because the Bible all over the place, don't love money, don't love money. The love of money is where I started to see the bad thing. If money is your number one, it's a bad thing. Money can be a servant. For me, and I read it through the Bible, money can be a servant, but it's not, you cannot love money. You cannot put money first, because in that sense, in that same vein, it's hard to figure out, okay, well, how do I get myself to the worthiness to feel like I can attract $1 million to do all this? And you start to fight back and forth with it. But I mean, earning money is not a bad thing, I mean, even Jesus was a carpenter for 33 years before, like he didn't do it for free, right? He had his craft that he did for most of his life before starting his actual journey.
I've never thought about that. That's really interesting.
Right? So he had his own craft. Like earning money is not a bad thing. And I had to really, because I felt guilty. I felt guilty if I didn't give some of it away, or if I didn't have some non-profit purpose to it. I felt guilty for receiving, because it was just like, I had to understand that I am worthy of receiving the blessings that he puts in my way. If he gave me a check for $1 million tomorrow, would I feel worthy of it? Would I still struggle with it? Even if I thought it was coming from him, So I think there's a lot between that relationship, because at the end of it, even the Bible says, where you store your riches, right? Are you storing your riches in eternity, or are you storing them here on earth? Because they'll turn to dust if you store them here. I'm not worried about, I want to do a lot, the parts of the road to 100 million, not only to impact over 100 million lives, to be able to make over $100 million a year and give away over $100 million in my lifetime. I think money is a tool. It gives you options, right? It gives you options, and Dave says it, to shop for what you want. You just have to know what you want, right? I mean, there's just parts of it that just go into that relationship to understand that from abundance perspective too, right? If I go out and buy a Porsche, right, in my head I might be thinking, dude, I could have, with this same money, you know what that could do in a third world country, right? $100,000 for this car. But you also got to think of it from the abundant side of, like, why can't I do both? Why can't I help people and be able to live and inspire people to live a life where it's not about the money? I might like the Porsche just because I'm a big car guy. I don't want to flash it. I might not ever post it or show it to anyone. But what if it's something that I want, and that it was just, it was a goal of mine? But there's always that middle ground, and it's a different relationship with everyone. But I think understanding that relationship to money, that it's not a bad thing to earn money. It is a tool. It can serve you in different ways. But the love of money, if the reason you wake up, because the reason I wake up is not for a Porsche. That does not motivate me. That does not even inspire me. I mean, really, like, it's exciting. Like, if you buy a Porsche, it'd be exciting for a couple weeks. And then after that, it might be like, okay, this is just my car that gets me from place A to place B. But what wakes me up is that calling side of things, to know that by the end of my life, I want to do and accomplish as much as I can. For me, it comes to the talents of making the most of what I've been given, right? How can I go and multiply what I've been given? Even, like, for me, I look at it as a story of immigrant parents coming broke, living all these dead-end jobs. Like, I look at it as that's all part of the story. He's using all that to lift me up so that he can say this, he came from this, even in the face of all this stuff. Look what he was able to do by just having faith.
Yeah, there's a lot you said there. I think people think very one-dimensionally, where it's like, I could get the Porsche, or I could help 100 kids in Africa. But it's like, well, maybe you get the Porsche, maybe you get a Rolex, and maybe you're in these rooms with 100 millionaires, and they don't know God, and they respect you because you have a Porsche and a Rolex, and then you teach that person about God, and then that person helps 1 million kids in Africa. It's like, it's so one-dimensional. And even in the Bible, it says, Hebrews 13:5, it says, be satisfied with what you have, don't love money, for God has said, I will never leave you, I will never abandon you. And I think about the talents, where he gives the guy the 1 talent, the 5 talents, the 10 talents. I believe my pastor broke that down once, like what a talent actually was. I think it was about 1 talent was 1 year's wages, which was about 20,000 in gold standards. And that 20,000 would be accounted to back in the Bible's time. So essentially, like the guy who had 5 talents was like, he was like what would be like a mega millionaire. And it's the guy who had 5 talents made 5 more. The guy who had 2 talents made 2 more. When they got to heaven, he said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant.
Yeah.
Well done, my good and faithful servant." It was the guy who, and this is the part about that story that's always crazy, it's the guy who has the least who buries it, and God's disappointed with him because he didn't have the faith to go and make. It wasn't about the 2 versus the 5, or the 5 versus the 10, or whoever has whatever. It says, be satisfied with what you have. But it was that those people were willing to take what they were given and to multiply and give it back to God. But the other guy lived in fear, that he was scared. He didn't have that faith. He just wanted to hide it. And
he had the faith just in the wrong things, right?
Yeah.
He had the faith in the money that if he buried it and saved it, that, you know, that would be the best thing to preserve that talent, that gold, right? Like, I look at it the same way. Like, it's just what you put your faith into, you know, and same thing. It's the scarcity versus abundance, you know. When you have less of it, it seems even more scarce. Yeah. But, it's just what you put your faith into.
It's a little interesting. I think, like, when people think of money as an idol, they think of rich people, or they think of people. But, dude, money is an idol just as much to rich people as it is to poor people, because, like, and even me, like, I don't have that much money right now, and sometimes it's like I feel like I need money, not like, oh, abundance, I'm gonna get $1 million, but it's like the same person who's at like $100 million and they're like, I need $1 billion, and like they live for money, is the same person who's in debt, who says like, I need money. Like, it's like you're both serving money in different ways. It's not the amount, it's just like they said, the position in your heart. Do you wake up and serve it? And that's just interesting.
And you only really know that by, like, even when the Bible says, show me where your heart is and I'll show you where you store your treasures. Yeah. Right? Where's your heart at? If your heart is all around just the money itself, once you get the money too, what's going to push you after that? Yeah. And what's enough? You know, there's never... Yeah. This is the same thing. Once you get to $1 million, you want 100 million. Once you get 100 million, you want $1 billion. And I don't think that's a bad thing to always want more and do more. But it's just like, what are you using that money for? Because I know people with exotic cars that will flash them in a way that, like, come make money with me, and this is how I do it, and this is how they monetize their brand. And I know people that use that and say, because of my obedience to God and everything else, it's given me the opportunities to make this money and make dreams come true and be able to give back. And you know, like David Meltzer, he used to say, on his 50th birthday, instead of throwing himself a big party and buying himself a Ferrari, he donated that same money that would have bought him a Ferrari and bought 2 community centers in Africa. Wow. You know, and he's like, that serves me way more than the Ferrari would have ever. And it's just, that's how it is. And he used to always tell me too, he's like, you want to know what $1 million really feels like? He's like, give it away. Yeah. He's like, you'll know what it feels like when you give it away. Oh, wow. You know, and giving away $100 for me, like, if I give it to somebody, like, if I find someone just in need and I give them $100, $200, like, that emotionally will charge me up so much more than spending $100 on myself. Like, I would, because when it comes to that, I'm like, I don't need it. I don't need it. But when it's somebody that's in need and I come in contact with them and I just feel the calling, I'm like, I have enough to pay my bills. I have enough to do this and save money and do this. And why not give it to them? You know, they are in need. And that giving away that money feels so much better. Wow. But nothing, and it's not attached to the love of the $100 that I'm giving away. It's how you're serving and making those people feel, right? If it's some dude living in his car, like, the smile you might get from him and the appreciation and just what it did for him, you know, that $100, you might get $100 today and you're like, oh, cool, that might last a week, you know, like, that's like four dinners, 5 days, you know, like, you know, you might go eat, but it's like for that person, it might mean the world. It might mean the difference between getting their children some Christmas presents or not. You know, it's that little difference that you never know that you could be making. And that's where I use and look at money as a tool. How can I give it away? How can I use it to serve me and my family and serve all those around us to help, you know, give to the poor, to help. I mean, if you want to spread your message and you get hired to speak, let's say you got hired to speak all over the world and all you were doing is getting hired to share your testimony of faith.
Yeah.
Costs money to fly around, costs money for the gas to go around. You might need money to go and do that, serve, right? And that's how I look at it as, even when, Jesus' disciples, he would leave the little bags of money or the talents for different people when, they needed certain foods or certain things, or people around them would somehow give it to them. They would find it in different ways, where there's stories of, I forgot his name, but there's one of the guys that was very wealthy and left them a bag full of like gold coins. And, there's just different ways where it'll come in. You don't even expect it. But I don't have I don't have that direct connection to money. And it felt weird because at first it was from the undeservingness. I used to ask Meltzer, I'm like, is it weird that I'm not excited about the money? And he looked at me and he's like, no. He's like, that just means you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But even going deeper into it, I had to find that relationship with money to not feel guilty about earning money and making money, especially when it's your calling, right? If somebody wants to pay you, if somebody came on and was like, yo, let me pay you 10 grand to come on your podcast, you'd almost be like, dude, you don't have to, just let me share your story. Like, that's where it's, it's hard to receive sometimes. But when you get to the point of, I heard this the other day, there's 3 levels of believing, right?
Yeah.
There's the believers that, believe in God and Jesus Christ and the Bible, and there's the believing believers where they believe that for themselves. And then there's the receiving believers who believe that they themselves will receive the blessings that God has for them.
Yeah.
And it's just expecting to receive blessings. It's the same kind of thing of where I want to do my best, be my best in everything that I can do with everything that I've been given. And I know everything will come back around, right? If I do, and I'm obedient to what I feel he's calling me to do, like the obedience to God is what's brought me that feeling of safety and sense of worthiness.
Rain. Dude, that's beautiful.
Dude, he's bringing down the rain for us. You see that?
It's my first podcast in the rain.